Hello, Winds of Change students. We're in week 2, and I was really happy with the forum post that everyone had this last week, and we'll just continue to do that. You guys are doing a great job. And then for this week, you're going to start with one of your first models. For the second week, everyone is just doing the same model, but as we go through progressive weeks, you're going to, as you look in the syllabus, you'll have a choice to do different types of models. And you can choose something that interests you. So, of course, the pestle analysis is this week. The pestle analysis is kind of really a foundation for our course, as I asked you to do the rip through today's headlines, articles, each of the 6 weeks. And, we can think about the political, the economic, the socio-cultural, the legal, the technology, and the environment. And in this week, the week 2, we look at the economy and rip from today's headlines. And our economy has improved from a much better place than it was in 2008, and the markets have made great strides since then. There's a little bit of concern now with the correction, but we've kept interest rates at a relatively all-time low for a long time. And a big question now is, what is Janet Yellen, our Federal Reserve Chairman, going to do relative to interest rates? And if interest rates start to rise, there could be a little bit of concern for business and markets. And there could also be some volatility in bond markets, not knowing which way interest rates are going to go. So I think a little people are a little nervous right now, a little skittish about how they should be invested, whether it be into bonds or stocks. But we'll just have to wait and see how things play out, and hopefully the economy still keeps improving. So, and that's not always the case throughout the rest of the world, but we've seen encouraging signs so far. And basically, for any organization, if the economy is doing well, you're more likely to do well too. So that's why we need to kind of keep a touch with all those things. If you are a leader, what is happening in interest rates? What's the unemployment look? What does inflation look like? What is gross domestic products, or how are those things doing? But things to think about when you do your pestle analysis this week, whatever organization you pick. To me, a pestle analysis is really something that you should do before a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because this will kind of really help you narrow down to what you would want to focus on for a SWOT analysis. But I provided a template out there for you. You can just use the drop downs in the template. I just say, no more than 1 or 2 sentences with a description about each one of the items. Some items may not apply to your organization. That's okay. You can just put NA. But try to address as many as you can, because you want to think about all the things that could potentially change or impact your organization that are out of your control, and that's a pestle analysis. We don't want to be taken by surprise, and how would this impact us? And I've left some few rows with it, just had others. So if there's something else that you think that needs to be in there, that needs to be considered. But when I designed the template, I tried to take into consideration everything that I could think of when I would want to kind of do some research on things that would impact our organization. So again, with that pestle analysis, just do a 2-page write-up. And then this is kind of how we'll do this each week. You'll have a model that you'll do, and then you'll do a 2-page write-up of that model, so just refer back to the syllabus. Relative to Cotter this week, you're going to have the 2 chapters. The next 2 chapters you're going to read, chapters 3 and 4, where you start to get that 8-stage process, 8-step process. And then, it talked about that chapter 3 about the idea of complacency, that if there was a lack of urgency, and I consider, my background's in economics, so to me the first thing that comes to my mind was like the lazy monopolist. We call it a lazy monopolist because if they don't have to worry about competition, perhaps there's not a lot of urgency to try to improve processes or do anything better, or managers or leaders can make what we call economic profits and not worry about that economic profit being taken away. Well, for most organizations, especially with global competition, we are very much, cognizant about pricing and the margins and how to be profitable and looking for the next new opportunity as things change. So you have to be constantly thinking about what we need to do next. And, in terms of some of the things that I kind of think about in this chapter too, he kind of mentions some of the things that leaders need to work on and think about to make sure that there is a sense of urgency in your organization. The other chapter 4, we looked at that one. Creating the Guiding Coalition provides a lot of good advice One of the things I like best out of the textbook, and I'll just kind of read it here, this was on page 67, he says, "The typical goal that binds individuals together on guiding change coalitions is a commitment to excellence, a real desire to make the organization perform to the very highest levels possible." So, you think about some of the organizations that are recognized by their peers of being some of the best groups, whether in the business world or the nonprofit world. I think of some that comes to my mind. It could be Apple, or it could be the Marriott, or it could be Starbucks. They put a lot of thought and effort about the experience and thinking about what their customers want. And that's kind of it ties into both of these chapters, whether it's customers or stakeholders. It's asking them, how are we doing? What do we need to do better? It's listening to them. And I believe it was in this week I put a PowerPoint out there about active listening. And listening is more than just a physical process. It's a sense of understanding that you are concerned about that customer or their shareholder, and that you're listening and you're coming to an agreement, whether it is a vendor, whether it's someone that's a supplier, or someone that's buying directly from you, or it's a member of your church, or it's a member of a nonprofit organization. So are we meeting that customer or stakeholder's needs? So other than that, again, I put the Week 2 forum discussion out there. The Week 2 forum discussion, I always want you to talk a little bit about the Cotter, but I'll probably ask you to talk more about the models. You don't necessarily have to finish the pestle analysis first to make it like a little aside post about that in your initial forum post, but I want you to post something that you are going to be interested to find out more about when you do your pestle analysis, or if you've started it during the week. Something that you discovered that you found interesting when you did the pestle analysis, or maybe something you didn't know about, or something, we really need to think about this because it could potentially impact us if this happens. And, and I teach finance, I'm always stressing my students about sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis, because sensitivity analysis usually looks at one thing. If one thing changes, say that the cost of fuel, which is now $2.60, goes up to $5 next year, how is that going to impact my organization? And maybe it doesn't at all. Scenario analysis looks at a lot of different variables changing at the same time, and what is the bottom line impact of the organization? And there's a lot of different things you can do with probability, Monte Carlo simulation to look at the probability of some event happening. And that's what a lot of this course is. Again, it's about recognizing the potential changes and how is our organization going to react to those changes, or that they're positioning themselves to be in a better position, that they're not taken by surprise, or that they're trying to reduce risk if this event does happen. So wish you all a great week, and I will talk to you online soon. Take care.